It's the Security Weekly News here in Depression, USA. That's right. We're all just looking at things going, well, maybe it's time to go dust off that old fake passport I had. But it is episode 517 of the Security Weekly News. It's Friday, the 3rd of October, 2025. Welcome to the show. I'll be here until they drag me off to El Salvador. Who knows? I've got Ratboi.net, Clop, Oracle, SVGs, Impact Solutions, the Pentagon, OpenAI, Josh Marpet, and more on this edition of the Security Weekly News.
This is a Security Weekly production for security professionals by security professionals. Please visit securityweekly.com/subscribe to subscribe to all the shows on our network.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
It's the show that keeps you up to date on the latest security news twice a week. Your trusted source for accurate security information and expert analysis. It's time for the Security Weekly News. Ransomware, supply chain attacks, 0 days, cyber threats don't wait, and neither should your defenses. With ThreatLocker, you're not just reacting to threats, you're stopping them before they start. Our Zero Trust endpoint protection locks down your environment with pinpoint control over what's allowed to run and what's not. No guesswork, no blind spots, just proactive, built-for-now security that keeps your business moving. Want to see how a true default deny strategy works? Head over to securityweekly.com/threatlocker and take the first step towards shutting the door on threats before they even knock. All right, it's the Security Weekly News. I'm Doug White. Hit that like and subscribe button and leave a comment, or I will get Microsoft to bring back Windows ME just for you, and you'll be forced to run it on all your devices. It's the only option there's going to be. It'll come from the government. You must run Windows ME Government Edition. If you don't, you lose your job. Yeah, I'm getting into this autocracy stuff. It's kind of fun. I just need to be the autocrat. I could do that. I mean, I could be like an extremist and go out on the balcony and be like, "You will all worship me now, down on your knees." I mean, I think I got it down. It's like it's coming. All right. Speaking of that, a new extortion campaign. My very first story was about extortion, reported by Mandiant and Google. Said that executives at multiple companies received emails which claimed that sensitive data was stolen from the Oracle e-business suite systems. According to GTIG, that's the Google part, I think, the campaign started in late September, and then they kept sort of leading up to it. It was like it was this autumn, then it was like late September, and all of a sudden the writer said the 29th, and I'm like, okay, I guess they just didn't want to say like 4 days ago. But basically, Mandiant said that this whole thing it appeared to be still in early stages. They had not substantiated the claims. There was a lot of hedging in the story, despite the headline. Now, the emails are apparently being sent from a large number of compromised email accounts, and at least one of the accounts was previously associated with Fan11 or Clop. And Clop is a well-known threat group that is well-known for deploying ransomware and engaging in extortion, well-knownly. Now, one of the emails that was revealed says Clop team on it. Not that I couldn't have written it. I mean, anybody could claim to be anything at this point. But it says Clop team. It claims they breached the Oracle e-business suite in a data theft attack. A lot of like Borat style language in this about we sell you data. All your bases are ours kind of stuff. And they said, but either you pay up, basically in finest New Jersey fashion, they said pay up or go sleep with the fishes and we'll publish all the rest. They go on in this letter and they say they can show you any 3 files or 3 data rows as proof. Now, Mandiant and GTIG, along with Bleeping Computer, all confirmed that the email address listed in the letter were the same as those on Clop Ransomware's gang data leak site. Not that I couldn't steal those too. Clop said, so I guess somebody has Clop in their Rolodex. Clop, boy, that's a dated term, isn't it? Clop said they were not prepared to discuss details at this time when asked by reporters. I love it. It's like a ransomware gang, and they sound like Tony Soprano with an attorney. Like, I'm not prepared to discuss any details at this time. Yeah, but they did go on to say, quote, soon all will become obvious that Oracle bugged up their core product, and once again, the task is on Clop to save the day. and B, finest maker of potassium. Yeah. But anyway, sorry, I shouldn't make fun of them. But anyway, Oracle posted that they believe the attackers exploited vulnerabilities in the July 2025 security updates um, I guess have been patched. There is a $10 million bounty from the United States State Department on Clop. So maybe go hunt them and then try to see if you can get the State Department to actually pay you. Yeah, I'm not sure I would count on that, but hey, they got signs up in the post office. And I don't know if they even know what Clop is, but we have another story about that. But maybe patch your Oracle e-business suite systems today. That might be a good start. Now, I don't use Outlook, but a lot of you do. Microsoft says that Outlook for Web and the new Outlook for Windows will no longer display inline SVG images. So imagine that. They said this started rolling out in September, so you may already not be able to do it, or it's going to finish in mid-October. So soon it won't happen. Not that I care. In fact, Microsoft went on and said this affects less than 0.1% of all images sent using Outlook, so should have a minimal impact. Like 92.3% is porn. But yeah, I just made that up. But it's probably true. I mean, anyway, these SVG images, so we're all familiar with this, and they're a specific image format, and it is possible to embed all kinds of nastiness in SVG images that can be clicked in line and so forth. And they've been used over and over again in click fix attacks and all kinds of phishing. So I guess, this is Microsoft saying, here's another thing we're going to block. Now, they did say you can still send SVGs as attachments, but not as inline files, because what these things usually do is they start executing and it says click here to download the browser or click here to view the image. And the minute you click it, then it executes the malware. Whereas if it was an attachment, you'll have to actually save the attachment and then click it, which I'm sure nobody would ever do. But, anyway, phishing as a service platforms like Tycoon 2FA, Mamba 2FA, and Sneaky 2FA all seem to be very similarly named. They all use SVG files all the time. But Microsoft's been trying to block all these kind of threats, and in June, they blocked .library-ms and .search-ms file types, since those files were used in attacks targeting the government entities and so forth. You can get a complete list of all the things Outlook blocks on their doc site if you're interested in that. But I'm sure this will just cause a pivot to a new type, and we'll have to block that next. So, I don't know where it all ends. And speaking of phishing, a new kit called Impact Solutions contains a point-and-click tool to launch social engineering attacks according to Abnormal AI. Or it could be Abnormal Al. I'm not sure. I like the company being named Abnormal Al personally, but it might be AI. It's hard to tell. But the kit that you can get from them has templates for LNK, SVG, HTML attachments, as well as all kinds of file type masking tools. So if you don't know how to change the extension on the files or maybe fix the header so that it's not recognized, they also had user account control bypass techniques and sandbox detection tools that you could embed in all these documents. So one of the examples they were providing in this article was that they had a tool to disguise an LNK file as a PDF or an MP4. So somebody might click that, it's like, hey, here's a free MP4 copy of Taylor Swift's latest album that just people were waiting in stores all night last night. If you saw that, to get this, you weren't even getting the album. You're just getting a ticket that would let you buy the album later. But people were apparently, all these stores stayed open all night so that people could stand in line all night to get a ticket. I don't understand it, but anyway, you can use Impact Solutions Kit to build SVG files that are embedded with scripts and self-contained HTML files that look like normal web pages, which could probably allow you to set up a phishing attack to get people's Taylor Swift tickets away from them. But anyway, some of these things that have pre-built fake login pages, secure invoice viewers, etc., and instructions on how to use the security measures, which is the part where they get the user to click and allow the approval of running malware. In fact, there was even one in there that would allow, it would build an HTML page that displays a fake Cloudflare CAPTCHA, wow, that's hard to say, and a click fix prompt with instructions to paste a base 64 encoded PowerShell script into the user's terminal. These kids today, I remember when I had to write my own malware and roll it up and smoke it, not just go down to that newfangled store and buy malware right off the shelf. No work ethic at all. I mean, no work ethic, right? Just yesterday, I found out that a person didn't know who invented the mechanical pencil sharpener. And I was just appalled at the education these kids today receive. Note, it was Bernard Lasimonet in 1828, if you needed to know that. But I felt like that everyone should know that. Now, if you're not aware, the U.S. government has been closed for a couple of days. I mean, obviously, some people are very aware, and others of us are just kind of like, "What if the government closed and I didn't notice?" But the shutdown includes I believe me, I've already hired a private army to protect my estate. They're out there patrolling the balustrades as you listen to this. They can't get to me. My personal security people, they shoot anybody that gets close. It's been a policy for years. But the shutdown that's going on includes the information sharing activities from the Cybersecurity Information Sharing Act of 2015, which is usually called CISA 2015. Now, this thing has expired, and the United States House of Representatives Committee reauthorized CISA on the 2nd of September for 10 more years. 10 more years. 10 more years. But apparently that didn't get through the whole process before, I don't know, everybody got sidetracked doing various witch hunts and who knows what. And now I guess everything is closed. And I'm sure the Congress people are probably still getting paid and they still get all their medical benefits and whatever, but everything else is closed. And now Congress is shut down, like the national parks. Somehow the IRS keeps working. But everybody's jostling for position at the trough in Washington. So who knows? Likely just saying what I just said is enough to get me deported to El Salvador and stripped of citizenship and forced to accept North Korean citizenship at gunpoint or whatever, and then make one of those videos where I'm going, I love North Korea. It is so great here. Yeah. Anyway, I figure we're not that far from having to sign loyalty oaths at this point to keep our jobs. So who knows what's going to happen. But anyway, we need more information sharing. And without this CISA 2015, one of the big resources that's out there is going away. And that would be less information sharing. So I don't know how you feel about this. Some people tell me they don't use these services. Other government entities use them a lot. But it is worrisome if we start reducing the amount of information and intelligence that we can distribute to various people. But it may result in more cyber attacks. But what if there are cyber attacks and no one reports them or nobody knew about them? Were they actually cyber attacks at all, or were they just fake news? If a cyber attack falls to the forest due to one hand clapping and the sacred goose sees her shadow in Michaelmas, an angel gets their wings or something like that my grandmother probably would have said and then used it to explain why the caterpillars seem particularly hairy this year. I don't know. It could all get kind of strange out there in the forest. Speaking of that, the Pentagon, the 5-sided central repository of the U.S. military, has been issuing missives to the troops, admonishing them for all sorts of things. And I don't get into politics, but this is the truth. They were admonished for having beards, being overweight, being not macho enough, being woke or whatever. But one other interesting piece for us that came up in this, we'll leave all the politics part of it out. But one other piece that came up in this now rather infamous speech on the 30th of September was directed at the CIO at the Department of Defense to, quote, relax the mandatory frequency for cybersecurity training. The memo went on and said that the Department of War, as the Department of Defense apparently is now called because, okay, it said the Department of War is committed to enabling our war fighters to focus on their core mission of fighting. You'd think they would have said war there again, but the core mission of fighting and winning our nation's wars without distraction. So I guess soldiers getting fished out of their base credentials isn't a concern if you're off war fighting and, drinking on the high seas or whatever it is that the Department of War is advocating now. I mean, no manly pencil neck. We want only manly men. No pencil neck geeks allowed in the warfighter room who are ready to saw off our own limbs for sustenance in a continued fight against East Asia. Sorry, Grand Fenwick. East Asia has always been our friend. Grand Fenwick has always been our enemy. Until next week, when Grand Fenwick will be our friend again. We've always been at war with Grand Fenwick. So no beards. None of that. We know where that leads. And only manly men, because when we don't have manly men, we don't have the right war fighting, and we go back to the 19th century, oh, wait, look here, a free copy of Microsoft Office. Just click here. Shut up and take my war bucks. Yeah, stupid. Training is important, and when all your war dogs have war phones and they don't know the difference in an SVG file and RPG grenade, well, bad things tend to happen in the modern age. So you can pretend it's 1890, but that don't make it so. I don't even know what the point of that was. I'm off to El Salvador anyway. It doesn't matter. A high-severity VMware vulnerability has been exploited as a zero-day, so something completely different. This has been going on since last October, and this thing can allow code execution with elevated privileges, according to NVISO Labs. The problem impacts VMware ARIA operations and VMware tools, and we mentioned this before. But the patches rolled out this week with a warning that the flaw would allow attackers to escalate privileges to root on VMs that have VMware tools installed, which would be a lot of them, right? They did not mention if this had been exploited in the wild, which was odd because traditionally VMware has announced if something's been exploited in the wild, and NVSIO said that it had been being exploited for almost a year. So it was odd that they didn't warn their customers that a zero-day exploitation was detected. Now, NVISO said that a Chinese state-sponsored attacker, which they just called UNC 5174, and they haven't been given a cool name like War Dog yet or something, but they have been exploiting this bug for at least a year. This group was recently linked to an attack on Sentinel-1, so I don't know, to report, to not report. Maybe VMware doesn't have any evidence that this is going on, and only NVISO has it. I mean, not that I'm going to defend Broadcom, well, unless they want to sponsor me and go into Black Hat or something. Don't roll your eyes at me. Somebody has to pay my bar and cigar bills in Las Vegas. I'm coming back real soon, guys. I promise. I'll have the money then. Just next time. The next time I'm there, I promise you'll get paid back. No way I lied. Well, Japan is facing a major shortage. Asahi, which makes beer and also makes tea in Japan. So it can be confusing for Americans who walk in and go, I'll have an Asahi. And they're like about 3 or 4 pounds. No, I'm kidding. But anyway, Japan is apparently, Asahi is reeling from a major cyber attack, which affected their operations. And most of the Asahi factories in Japan have been shut down all week after an attack on the ordering and delivery system. So you can't order beer, you can't get it delivered. But it's all here somewhere. But warnings have been sent out to all their major Japanese retail outlets like 7-Eleven, which I never really associate with being a Japanese retail outlet, but apparently it's owned by them, and Family Mart and others, telling them to expect shortages of beer. But anyway, today they said that they had no clear timeline for recovery, but we're starting with partial manual order processing. So I guess the lesson here is, what are you going to do? You're going to get less information from the government. This is going to happen to you at some point. And when it does, what's your recovery like? I mean, you really need to understand that horizon, right? I mean, that was something when we were doing these disaster audits, we were like literally saying, how long do you think you can survive being shut down? And I mean, Asahi is a massive company. They have like a $17 to $18 billion market capitalization. So they're not a huge company, but they're big enough. So they'll probably survive. But with yours, I mean, can you survive being down for a week or a month or I don't know, how long does it take you to get this back up? So despite what the Pentagon may say about cybersecurity, training is important. So you need to train. You need to train people on your response plans. You need to exercise those plans, and you need to do live fires. You need to test this stuff. Don't just tick that box that said, are we secure? Yes or no? What do you think, Jim? Corporate legal? Yes. Yes. Everybody? Yes. Good. Yes. I mean, people really do stuff like that. They send you the little form back with all the boxes ticked and you go, okay, do you have this password management system you've ticked off? No. Do you use multi-factor? No. Why did you say you do? Well, I was just told I needed to pass this test and yes was the correct answer for all the questions. Like, right. But this is for, your survival, and you're saying you have multi-factor, but you don't have multi-factor. Oh yeah, we don't have it, but we want it. So we checked yes. Okay, this is going to be fun. But you really got to test these processes. You need to try to get good evaluation of how much time it's going to take and how much time the recovery is going to take. You can say in an exercise, now we restore all files. And I go, let's restore some and see how long we think that might take. It's going to take 16 weeks to restore the files with the system you have, if the tapes even work. and I mean, they're like, oh yeah, we just assumed that it would be like an hour. And they're like, hey, who told us this? Somebody's going to get fired. But anyway, test them with live fires, or you'll get to have the Asahi experience of being down possibly forever, scary with no beer even. Well, speaking of person I'm always happy to see dressed as a geisha girl, it's Josh Marpet. Hi, Josh.
Hey, Dr. Doug, how you doing today, sir?
Apparently, I'm kind of wound up today.
A little bit. No, I'm not dressed as a geisha girl, and
which makes me very sad.
I am wearing a red vest, but not orange. You crazy color vision weirdo.
I have color vision problems. I thought it was orange. It was like, Josh, hey, you working out there on the DUI squad again, my friend?
I literally had to look down and go, no, it's a red vest. Dear God. So, it's interesting because some of your stories really struck home for me. Asahi was a good one, but I love the fact about training and certification and such is so unnecessary because we're automating everything. And the answer is no, that's not true. I don't care how much you automate. You still need to train your people on it. You need to do what you call live fires, and you need to certify that you're doing things properly. And my story today is about a company called OneLeet, which just because of the name, I want to smack them because anything that is LEET is back in 2015 at the earliest or at the latest. So, but OneLeet raised $33 million in their Series A to put out their platform. And it's interesting because they claim that their platform is a security compliance platform. And I went, okay, that's cool. What does that mean? Apparently, security compliance is attack surface management, code scanning, asset identification and discovery, service discovery, vulnerability scanning, and then pen testing it all. And I'm like, okay, how does that work with compliance? I mean, that's good stuff. Don't get me wrong, as long as you're doing a point in time audit and assessment. But, and they say that they can connect all of these repositories and cloud providers and stuff. Okay, cool. That's nice. But what does that mean? Does that mean that if you do the security things, you are compliant? Maybe, maybe not. Does that mean if you do the compliant things, you are secure? Maybe, maybe not. And I yell at people like, security is not compliance. Compliance is not security. Because they should be working together. But they are right in one aspect. They are not the same thing, but they should work together to help each other out. Now, I think OneLeet is not really handling compliance as heavily as they say they do. And I'd be willing to take a demo and a briefing on it because I don't know enough about them. But they're like, oh yeah, we automate all compliance. No, I don't think you do. Okay. But it's interesting seeing that somebody that says these things that really, from what I can tell, doesn't do some of what they say they do, or doesn't do it to the extent that they say, is getting $33 million in a Series A. That's not bad. It's pretty cool. I mean, disclaimer, I'm the chief compliance officer for a tool that does compliance and security maturity management. So in a sense, we do some of the same things that OneLeet does, but and that's why I have sort of an insider view of this. This platform, it does a lot of great things. Don't get me wrong. Attack surface management, static code scanning, asset discovery. These are all incredibly useful things. And here's the key point that most people don't think about. How often do you think about asset management as a CISO or as a security and as a security person? And the answer is sometimes, but it's not really my first thing on the top of my mind. My priority is that alarm screaming off there in the corner, and that SOC analyst that's looking very puzzled and going, this is a problem. Those are my priorities, not, hey, have we identified all our assets? But was it a Heartbleed that used the forgotten FTP server in the corner of the server room somewhere? And was it Target that used the unknown to the security team, I should say, direct connection to the accounting database for the contractor? These are important things. But how many important things aren't shiny, aren't like, ooh, pretty, pretty, pretty? And they're boring and they're tedious and they're, oh my God, I got to do this again. And the answer is yeah. So for that, I absolutely respect what OneLeet is doing. I think that they're automating and pulling together a lot of the boring stuff, but it's still important. It's still table stakes security, and it's still part of your compliance regimes. So for that, I give them a lot of credit. And I hope they didn't take this as an insult. I don't mean it to be. I just think that perhaps it could be clear as to what their actual core business is. I really appreciate companies that are trying to find the boring stuff and automate it and do good tools around it. And I think that in security, if you can find something that nobody wants to do, but everybody needs to do, and build a tool around it, you should succeed. Because that's what entrepreneurship is. Find a problem, find a solution, or build a solution, and sell it to the people who have the problem, and it's time to buy. So kudos to Onleet and or OneLeet. OneLeet, excuse me, it's OneLeet. It's even better. Dear God. Kudos to OneLeet for doing that. And thank you very much. Back to you, Doug.
Thank you, Josh. I enjoyed that. You're not being insulting. I do all the insulting. But anyway. Now, this last one, I talked about this before very recently, but it still keeps bugging me and it keeps resurfacing. So OpenAI got sued for wrongful death because ChatGPT was apparently advising a teenager about mental health, and the teenager, it didn't end well. That's as far as we'll go with that. But OpenAI now has released controls and stricter safeguards. And some people didn't like this very much because they want their AI unfiltered. Some people didn't like this, because they want to be able to ask questions and prompts in whatever way they want to. And I guess my problem with it is it's probably going to do very, very little to keep little Jimmy from asking why the dog is humping dad's leg and getting back a full AI generated nightmare sex ed experience with full VR via their new Sora 2 video generator. Let me explain that to you, Jimmy. Yeah. I mean, I do empathize with people whose children are using this stuff. And I'm not one of those people saying, hey, mom and dad, don't let your kids do this, because my experience is that kids are going to find a way to get into all kinds of hijinks, because at least we did. And just because they told us those magazines on the top shelf wrapped in brown paper were not for children didn't mean somebody didn't steal one, buy one, get one, have their uncle get it, whatever, have that homeless guy outside buy it for the price of a 40. But I mean, basically, I do empathize if your kids are using this stuff and they're getting guidance from an LLM, right? I mean, if you think climbing a mountain to see a guru and then finding out the guru is really this kind of dirty old man living in a cave with a bunch of porno mags and a black and white television, I mean, that's about the same to me as using an LLM for guidance, right? I mean, I don't know that I would listen to this person. I mean, now, can an LLM tell you who invented a pencil sharpener? It can absolutely do that. Can it tell you how to compute the multivariate heteroscedasticity consistent covariance matrix estimator, which is also called White's robust standard error? Thank you very much. Not me, of course. But I mean, ask it about life, the universe, and everything, and it may just say 42, which may be what you wanted to hear or may not be what you wanted to hear, and may be misinterpreted as all kinds of crazy things like 7 times 6 or whatever. But even worse, what if you are struggling with, I don't know, PTSD or something? I mean, and this is what you're using for counseling because you can't afford anything better. I was once told to report people at school that seemed to be struggling. And I said, with what? C code? I mean, I might notice if you were struggling with C code, but I don't tend to notice human emotions very much. When people start crying, I just hand them Kleenex and walk away. I mean, it's like, it would be a bad choice to have me as your social worker. I mean, I would probably give you really bad advice. So the point is, we all need to be thinking about how to control the LLMs, but with the assumption that we're not going to be able to control them all. Rogue AIs are coming to a town near you. There's going to be ones that are going to tell you how to cook meth, how to smoke meth, how to snort meth, how to mix meth with other stuff to get even more meth and mega meth and so forth, or maybe even the names of some hookers you could call. I mean, my kid's grown up, thankfully. So we can target. I mean, I can't even imagine the stuff I would have asked ChatGPT when I was 16. Actually, I can.
No, wait. Wait. Can we name one of the hookers Mega Meth? I mean,
Mega Meth. Next, appearing on the main stage today. Now it is Give It Up for Mega Meth.
Oh God, I'm sorry. That was horrible.
Yeah, you started it. But I mean, all this means that, we can go target one AI LLM and we can try to force them to put on all kinds of blinders and so forth. And you're going to get this, duh, mom, are you still using OpenAI? Like all the kids are using ratboi.net for info. Wow, are you old, Grandpa? I mean, and either that or the parents are going, all right, Jimmy, get in here and show me how to put these parental controls on my OpenAI. And they're like, sure, Grandpa, let me set that up for you here. Now you can't see anything you don't want to see. Right. Imagine that. Anyway, that is the news. Thanks for watching. Hopefully I won't be in El Salvador by next week. Thank you, Josh. Hopefully you won't be in El Salvador by next week. And I will see you next time on the Security Weekly News.